Shalom. First, I'm going to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. And we're going to get into it with prophecy, because prophecy is a major part of having the spirit or the testimony of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. You know, a big part of prophecy is going on right now over in the so-called Middle East with Iran. You know, and it's steadily building up. You know, after these ceasefires, you know, it only ramps up and gets worse. You know, more troops are being killed. More U.S. troops are being killed. They are hiding the true numbers. And when I say they, the military, the U.S. military or your government is hiding the true casualties, man. You know, they're hiding the true number of wounded troops. You know, and it won't be long before your sons and your daughters are drafted to partake in this war. You know, men and women are going to be drafted into this World War III. It's already begun. The train has left the station. You know, so all you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans who are of draftable age, get ready because it's coming. This war is a go, and it's not turning back. You know, the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, has set this war in motion. And there's nothing can be done to stop it. So us, the men of the Lord, the watchmen, we are just sitting here watching it unfold. You know, some videos are getting out, but Iran is, you know, dropping bombs and missiles on these places like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, you know, countries like that in the Middle East. You know, and they are causing damage. You know, so it won't be long for, you know, they finally declare, hey man, we're in World War III. You know, which also has been prophesied in the Bible. But let's get this article here. It says Iran warns will attack Israel directly if U.S. hits Mount Pickaxe. It says several times this afternoon, U.S. President Donald Trump mentioned Pickaxe Mountain in Iran as being an active target for U.S. airstrikes. The mountain is reportedly made entirely of granite, an extremely hard, tough stone, and according to various reports, Iran allegedly built a nuclear facility beneath all that granite to hide the facility and to protect it from airstrikes. Numerous weapons experts, along with military experts, have publicly stated for weeks that the mountain cannot be breached even by the U.S. maximum ordnance penetrator bombs. The only way the experts believe a nuclear facility beneath that mountain can be destroyed be via a U.S. tactical nuke bomb, which say they would create a seismic wave in the ground, crushing the underneath facilities. Hearing all this public chatter, Iran responded today saying if the U.S. attacks Mount Pickaxe, Iran would directly attack Israel. Much of Israel's layered defenses have already been obliterated by Iran, which hit sites in Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and most recently Jordan. Therefore, with so many layers of Israeli defense now destroyed, any direct attack by Iran will likely see very many of those Iranian missiles make it to Israel, inflicting a mind-numbing scale of damage. So you're going to see this really ramp up on the Israel side now. You know, Iran has been hitting the military bases where the U.S. has been, stockpiling military hardware for a ground invasion. So they've been knocking that down and destroying that. So now they saying, hey, if you take our pickaxe mountain, we're gonna just start raining down on Israel again. So this is a real war, man. This is a real live war going on. And so-called Negro Latinos and Native Americans don't have a clue what's going on. You don't keep up with world events. Only thing you keep up is with bullshit FBA. This nigga Nolan Wells. You niggas are stuck on race subjects, race matters. Yeah, Esau Edom, so-called white man's hate our guts. But he's much more calculating than that, man. That's a given. If you don't know that the so-called white man hates your guts, then you're a damn fool, man. There's nothing else to really tell you. But we're going to get some precepts because we got to filter everything through the scriptures. And one of my main ones I like to go to is when I start talking about the Middle East, in World War III, is that Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe is past, or the second destruction is past, and behold, the third woe, the third destruction, cometh quickly. So the third woe, or the third destruction, or the World War III is here, man. It's getting to that part where it's going to climax and eventually become thermonuclear. They already prepping the ground war, which is a major part too. Because right now what they're doing is the foreplay, the appetizer with the airstrikes. You can't really get much done like you want to unless you're doing a ground invasion. And that's when the battle really starts. And now the U.S. are amassing troops and equipment over in the Middle East, getting ready to go to take Iran, by force, by the way of means of ground troops. Even though Esau Edom hasn't declared that it's World War III, man of the Lord, the prophets, the watchmen, we know that this is World War III going on right now. And as you saw in that article, it's talking about how they're gonna shoot missiles on Israel. I had brought this out yesterday at camp that that's a cut to those people over in Israel, that they're not the true people of the Most High. They are not the chosen people. Because we're gonna get it again. And in Jeremiah 30 verse 10, it says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, says Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel. It's talking about all 12 tribes, not the 2 or 3 tribes they got over there now that they claim. We're talking about all 12 tribes. For lo, I will save thee from afar. So the Most High, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, going to save us from afar, meaning save us from America. Because the bulk of the deliverance is going to come out of here, right here in Babylon, America. He says, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and shall return, and Jacob shall return. Yeah, Jacob shall return to the land of Israel, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Yeah, we're going to return back to the land of Israel, which is going to be way bigger than what it is now. We're going to get all that land that was promised to Abraham. That's going to be all of Israel, man. So this war is very welcoming to a man of the Lord, because it just means this is speeding up the time for us to get the hell out of here. That means we're getting closer and closer to our kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. No more being stuck in Babylon or wherever we been scattered to the four corners of the earth, man. We're gonna go back to our one central place where we belong, man, the land of Israel. It says, and none shall make him afraid. Yeah, we're not gonna have to worry about Iran or any Arab Muslim country shooting missiles on us, man. We're not gonna be afraid in that land. We're gonna be living in peace, living forever with our wives, concubines, children, family, brothers, sisters. You know, we're going to be living the life and we won't be afraid. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And before I do, I give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom.